People can be good at prospecting. So, they'll do their dials, they'll set the time apart, but then there's the follow-up. And where people don't have the impact that they could have is through following up. And the research shows that you should follow up 7 times after your initial outreach within 2 weeks. If you're not going to get on their radar, then they won't know about you and you won't be able to communicate what it is that you can do to help them.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Darren Krakowiak works with commercial real estate leaders to develop their people and grow their businesses, and he helps industry professionals save time, earn more, and be top performers in their market. Darren, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sam. Great to be here.
Pleasure's mine. Darren, there are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start, where are you now, and how did you get there?
Well, I started in Melbourne, Australia, which is where I was born, and I was an employee at the start of my career, relatively humble beginnings, zero wealth that I started with. And I now am still in Melbourne, but I got there in some different ways. So I'm in Melbourne now. 2 years ago, I started running my own business on my own terms, working with clients who I want to help and who want my help. And I also, just to remain on topic, have 4 investment properties and host a podcast that's coming up to 100 episodes in a few weeks. In terms of how I got there, I got here via South Korea. So I spent 11 years living and working as an expat in Seoul, Korea. And what that did was it equipped me with the knowledge, the leadership experience, and also I think the confidence that's required to do what you said that I do now, which is to help commercial real estate leaders to develop their people and to grow their business. And by going to Korea, I got opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if I had stayed in Australia, certainly more elevated leadership responsibilities than would have been the case if I'd stayed in Australia. And I also picked up a wife along the way, and we had a daughter that I would definitely never have had if I'd stayed here. So overall, apart from, it wasn't just a one linear track all the way up, but certainly I did pretty well out of my time there and looking forward to what the future brings.
Man, that's super cool. I love that. I love that you lived, out of your home country for 11 years. That's not something that a lot of people have the courage to do. So well done on that front. Also, just want to say here on the air, thanks for taking the time to come on. I mean, it's I'm recording this at 8:30 in the morning for me. It's 11:30 at night for you?
It is, and I promise not to yawn. that would not be cool.
Man, that's impressive. Thank you for coming here and being on today. Certainly appreciate it. I guess one of the things I really want to highlight and focus today on is leadership. I think that's something you are well known for, is leadership and building teams. And I guess when I even say that term, leadership, team building, what do those things mean to you?
I think building a team is, it's about delegating to people, but not expecting them to do things exactly how you want them done, but to giving them the parameters, the responsibility, but also the rein to do things how they think it should be done. But not expecting everyone to be exactly how you are. So the way you asked me that question made me think of a client I was speaking to just the other day who said to me, one of my staff, they're slow, what's going on? They don't speak fast enough, and he said to me, what can I do to change that? And I said, well, what you can do is try and be a little bit more accepting of the fact that they speak a little bit slowly, because we can't make everyone the way that we want them to be. So, leadership, there's so many different ways to look at it, but I think growing a team is about creating the right culture, having the values that people can understand, casting a vision forward that people can align themselves to, communicating, where we're going, why we're going there, why it matters, and how we know when we're on the right track. Bringing in the right people, having the right systems and structures in place, having relationships. There's many different aspects to leadership, but there's a few things that I think of when you ask me that question.
Do you think that a leader is someone who is a leader naturally, or are leadership skills something that can be groomed?
They can be groomed. I think there are certain there are people who are going to be naturally better at it, just as some people are born with, say, natural athletic ability. And then there are other people who have to really work hard at it and sort of work that muscle. But I think that if the key to being a good leader is deciding to actually be a good leader. Because if you don't actually set the intention to be a good leader, then you probably won't be a good one, even if you have the innate skills that are required to be a good leader. And if you don't naturally have some of those skills that are required to be a good leader, you can work at them. And by working at them, I think you'll be doing a lot more than most people do in particularly corporate leadership, because a lot of people want to climb the corporate ladder for status, for ego, to make more money, to get a certain office, to have control over more people. But they're all things which are about them and not about the people that they're there to lead. So if you can make your leadership about being a better leader for the people who you're there to lead, then that will set you apart from other people and will do a lot more for you than just having some innate abilities that perhaps are natural leadership traits.
Gotcha. I like that. I mean, it sounds like more of the idea of servant leadership versus just leading because, hey, I want to get out and get on top.
Simple way of thinking about it is, some people say, 200 people work for me, or, I work for 200 people. And that little sort of shift in perspective can tell you a lot about the way that some people see their role in leadership.
Gotcha. When you go into a commercial real estate business, what are some common things you see maybe across the board? You say, hey, here's some things that people, if they paid more attention to, could get in front of that don't necessarily require somebody like you coming in 5 years later and saying, hey, here's all the problems that you could have fixed a long time ago. Are there things that you just commonly see?
Probably a couple I could mention now. One would be around people can be good at prospecting. So, they'll do their dials, they'll set the time apart, but then there's the follow-up. And where people don't have the impact that they could have is through following up. And the research shows that you should follow up 7 times after your initial outreach within 2 weeks. And a lot of people hear that and they think 7 times in 2 weeks, like that sounds like a lot. Am I going to be annoying them? Well, if you're not going to get on their radar, then they won't know about you and you won't be able to communicate what it is that you can do to help them. And if you don't, someone else will. So rather than thinking about, I don't want to annoy them, think about potentially someone else who's an inferior provider might actually end up helping them in a way that is not as good as I could help them. And people are busy. They're not just sitting around waiting for our calls. So we need to do something to get on their radar. And part of that is just through creating a presence through some consistent contact over a short period of time. And one way that you can do it in a way that is less sort of repetitive is to try different channels. So not just to try and call someone 7 times, but to try and hit them up on LinkedIn, maybe send them an email, and also to do your prospecting in a way where you get 1, 2, or 3 touch points in at once. So you might try to connect with them on LinkedIn, you might send them an email and call their cell, or you might leave a voicemail on their office phone, send them an email, and reach out to them on another form of social media, for example. So you can get in a lot of touch points. You don't have to do 7 separate touch points. It's just 7 touch points or 7 contact points over 2 weeks. You can do 2 at a time, for example. I think that will make you more effective and stand out. People go, oh, okay, he's tried me here. She's done that. Okay, maybe I should pay attention next time this person contacts me, or maybe, hallelujah, I should actually call them back.
Right. And that that's interesting. I think when you say that, there is a little discomfort that comes in with that, because I think most of us are content to a fault to say, okay, I emailed Darren. Let's see if he replies. I don't want to be a pest. Like, that's the thought that we're having. But if you're like me, I mean, email gets buried. I mean, unless it's super important email, like I filter my email. There's probably 100 unreads in there because they're all not important. And if I don't know you, Darren, I might be like, well, Darren can wait because he's not in the urgent important category. So I don't know.
And assuming that you're being a pest kind of relegates your position to something which is not important. right? So if you've actually got something important that can help them, then you're not being a pest. You're actually trying to help them, and you're just trying to bring their attention to something which is important. So, yeah, I know some people struggle with that, but I think that if you haven't ever heard anyone tell you to stop calling you, then you're nowhere near the line of calling people too much. So you're never going to get to the line if you don't cross it occasionally. So if you've never been told to get lost, then I think you can go a little bit harder with your follow-up because, some people are more sensitive than others, but for most people, they're just busy and you need to do a little bit more than most to get people's attention.
I love that. I mean, that's true if you are a commercial broker. That's true if you're running an acquisitions team in a commercial real estate firm. That's true even on the investor relations side. I think about that. I mean, how many I'm sitting on stuff from 10 days ago that somebody shipped me a deal that I want to invest in. And to be honest, I just haven't had the time to get around to hitting the wire and filling out the paperwork. And no one's followed up with me. It's like, oh, wait, like I've already told you I want to get in and there's time on this deal. So I'm also not pressured as the investor. But I think about that from an investor relations perspective, where even, hey, I've got an opportunity and we send one email. And I've heard this from groups I'm in, like, well, I sent an email and I didn't get much reply. And I'm like, what did you call him? Did you send him a text? Did you, like you said, connect with him on LinkedIn? Hey, by the way, I want to follow up. So I think that follow-up, process you're talking about applies across, a variety of disciplines inside the commercial real estate space. I really like that. Is there anything else that comes to mind when you say, hey, there's some common mistakes you see?
The other one I would talk about with you is in relation to personal branding and people using LinkedIn and, they've got their profile and they're posting on LinkedIn. They think that they're doing enough from a personal branding perspective. But when to be fair, if you've got an up-to-date profile and you're posting content on LinkedIn, then you are doing more than 90% of people in the industry. But to be really elite, you need to be posting content that isn't just, I sold this, I listed that. You need to be really thinking about what it is that you do from the perspective of the person who you're trying to open up a conversation with. So really thinking about what's going to attract their attention, and are they going to want to look at your stuff when they see it on LinkedIn, or are they just going to think, this person's just going to be talking about another deal that they did, boring, not interested. So how can we actually talk in the context of the people who we're looking to serve, who we're looking to work with, to open up conversations with them? And I think talking about, not just what we do, which is those deals, talking about listings, talking about accomplishments, but also why we do it, how we do it. So why we do it is about sort of stories of how we've helped people and why that was important. How we do it is kind of like documenting our day and just going behind the scenes a little bit to put a bit of context around the process. And then we can also talk about who we are. And people make the mistake of thinking that LinkedIn is a super buttoned up platform where we cannot talk about anything but business. And if I don't talk only about business, I'm going to get in trouble. But you can definitely talk about non-business things on LinkedIn. In fact, it's a great way to help people see that you're not just another real estate professional, that you're actually a person, and to bring people in a little bit. And you don't have to make it all like a sob story about terminal illness or something like that. It doesn't need to be like that personal. It just needs to be, it can be pretty innocuous. It might be, on Thursdays, it's my day to take the kids to school, and we always go out for a breakfast at the local cafe on Thursday mornings, and it's my favorite day of the week because of that. Or it could be, I just read this book and I think that people in my network might like it because of this. So sharing things, just letting people in a little bit, I think can go a long way to building your personal brand. It would certainly go a lot further than just sharing posts about how wonderful you are or the deal that you've just closed.
I like that. And that's something that, to a fault, I've been not accused. I brought on a marketing manager, and that's what she told me. She goes, you've got to get a little bit more color, behind who you are. And because for me, it was all just business. It's like, hey, here's awesome interviews I did with awesome guests like yourself, and here's deals, and here's that. And she's like, there's nothing about you anywhere. It's just real estate focused.
I will challenge you and also challenge the listener to post something more personal on LinkedIn and to see how it goes. And I've personally seen that when I am not posting about my business, I actually get more engagement. I get more likes. Now, we're not trying to get likes when posting on LinkedIn. That's not the name of the game. We're trying to start up conversations and to post content which helps people get to know us. Now, the likes and the comments are just a nice byproduct, but certainly that is an indicator of how people are seeing your content. So the stuff that people like and engage with more often than not is going to be the stuff that is not work related. And the other thing that the non-work related stuff does when you post on LinkedIn, it kind of brings people out of the woodwork. And there are a lot of lookers and lurkers on LinkedIn who are looking at your stuff but not liking it. But if you throw something personal in there from time to time, you can bring those people out of the woodwork, and they might just punch a like or make a comment, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that they were there looking at what I'm doing. And that can be enough just to open up a conversation as well. Right.
And I like that. Tell me, I guess when I think about that, when I think about even social media branding in general, and this is probably an unfair question in the sense that everyone's going to have their own specific desired outcome. But what's the goal in all of that? Let's say we do build a brand, we do get engagement. Why do I even need that?
It's to open up conversations with people off the platform. That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to create more opportunities. We're trying to attract people who we want to do business with by letting people know who we are. And in fact, one thing that I show my clients to do is have a profile headline. So that little line under your name where most people just put, director of whatever company, or actually put a statement which says who it is you help, how you help them, and why. And what that statement should be is something that actually almost repels people who don't fit into that line, but it works like a magnet to attract the people who do. And it makes you stand out compared to everyone else who just calls themselves an agent or a financier or an investor or whatever it is that everyone else calls themselves. And people look at that and they say, oh, this person's for me. So it's a funnel. It's a way to identify opportunities, and also for people to self-identify as being the right prospects to come and speak to you.
I like that. You said it, I like thinking of that as a funnel. And I think if I'm going to recap the things you said, it's who it is you help, how you help them, and then why you help them. Is that right? Maybe I said that back.
Who it is. It's what you do, how you help them, or why you help them. I'll put those two in one category.
Right.
So that's kind of like, like a TV show like Lux Listings, or so it's kind of like a self-aware version of that. Like, don't be as annoying as those people on those shows, but it's not just talking about the listings, but it's talking about a little bit of behind the scenes and, what you get out of that. And then the who you are, which is the non-work related stuff.
Right. Man, I love it. I love it. When you think back on your business career, what's some good advice or bad advice maybe that you've heard along the way that you like for people to avoid, or you'd like for people to take to heart? So
one that I'm sure most of your listeners would know is that debt is okay. And I was taught that debt is bad, and whenever you've got debt, you want to pay it off. And but not all debt is bad debt, and that took me a while to learn and understand. And, that was bad advice but I learned that it is actually okay to have debt, because some debt leverage can help you buy and expand more and to do more things. So that was bad advice that I came to understand. Some good advice that I got, I think, was to be magnanimous. And magnanimous is a word that means to basically treat people kindly, even when they're not giving you any reason to be kind to them. And it was told to me before I was promoted into a certain role where I had a lot more responsibility, and I probably in that role would have been able to lord it over a lot of people. And this person basically said to me, hey, when you've got this much responsibility, it's really important that you demonstrate magnanimity. And that is that even when people are giving you the opportunity to not be kind, that you are kind to others. And I think that often in commercial real estate, it's a very competitive industry where people sometimes don't always treat each other kindly. There is an opportunity for us to rise above it and to be the person who demonstrates magnanimity and to be magnanimous.
I love that. It's the idea of the John Mann's book, The Go Giver. don't know if you've read any of that, but
Love that book. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's come on the show a couple times, so it's been fun to have him on.
Oh, wow. I'm in a esteemed company.
Yeah, it's been fun to have John on the show, but and talk about that. Like, what does it mean to be a go-giver? Like, what does it mean? And that's a big word. I don't even know how to spell magnanimous. That's a lot of letters. But to be magnanimous and to kind of be that go-giver, which be kind to people that maybe you don't even necessarily have to even acknowledge, like, hey, you know what, I want to help you. And I see that a lot, actually. I mean, yes, commercial real estate it's a competitive landscape, no doubt. There's a lot of ego and a lot of people and a lot of money, and anytime you have that, you get a competitive landscape. But certainly I've also found it to be a very collaborative industry in its own right, which is probably one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about it. And I say that a lot to people who are unfamiliar with it. It's the strangest industry because we do podcasts like this where we just freely share information about how to get deals, how to build teams, how to go out and, make acquisitions, follow up. And it's like, this is weird. I mean, I've been in other industries where it's like very closed loop. But so I think there's a bit of both of those, but I love that. Certainly love that encouragement. Did you cover you did cover the bad advice. You said something about debt being bad.
I think, that was the one I had for you on that one. Yeah. I can give you more if you like. Probably one other one that I think was bad advice was, I was told by a former boss okay, you need to make this amount of money. And once you make that amount of money, then you're doing well. And I kind of took that to heart. And I think focusing on money in and of itself is not a good thing to focus on.
Right.
Like, it's great to have financial goals and there's nothing wrong with making money, but once you make that amount of money, you'll find out that your cup's not full yet. You're not fully satisfied, right? There's always going to be more money that you can make. So I think having something more significant to focus on than just making a certain amount of money is some bad advice that I was following until I, started to realize that there needs to be more to life than just making money.
What did you do to shift your perspective?
Probably, I guess I had a family. I got married. I matured. I think that just comes from years and maturity. Because for many years I was really focused on making money, and I loved some of the trappings that come from having money of, flying business class and little things like staying at nice hotels, which I still enjoy. But I think that I was attaching a lot of status to that as opposed to sort of thinking about I think that when you're making a lot of money and that's your measure of success, it can paper over some of the other cracks that exist in your life, whether that is issues with personal relationships, issues with your health. And what happened, I guess, for me is that eventually the things that you paper over, they get exposed. And then you realize that the money that you're making isn't ultimately fulfilling you and giving you a balanced life that is going to help you be satisfied in the long term.
Right. I think that's great. When you say all that, I think of the term just why. Like, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? And what is the goal for my why? Like, if I make X, well, then what am I going to do with it? Or why am I going to get there? And so I've had to go through that myself, actually, several times when I go, okay, I see friends in the commercial real estate business, they're killing it. They're deca-millionaires at this point, and they have huge companies. And I go, do I want to be you? No, I really don't. Like, I don't want to get there. Like, I can be content with X because it solves why I'm going out and working. Like, I have a far smaller figure in mind that I go, okay, when I can do that, that'll free up X, X and Y, and then I can go do what I want. So I think that's really, really sound advice, and I certainly appreciate it. Darren, it's been awesome having you come on today. Are there any last closing thoughts that you have that you'd like to share with our listeners? Be
more generous in your life. Be more kind. You did send through a list of things about things we might talk about. And one of the things that was on there was, how do you measure success? And I thought about that, and I was thinking about how for me, it used to be about money, or it used to be, it'll be when I have this many investment properties, or but what I started to realize was it's actually about my ability to be a bit more calm, to be more kind, to be more generous than I was in the past. So I think if you can move your measures of success to have some financial ones in there. That's okay, but also have some non-financial KPIs in your life. I think that's a good place to get to as well.
I love it. Darren, if our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Go to cresuccess.co/links. You'll see on that page my podcast. Also, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of free resources available for people who work in commercial real estate.
Awesome. We'll certainly make sure we get all that included there in the show notes. Darren, thank you again for coming on the show today. It was a blast having you on. And again, thanks for staying up now almost till midnight for you. That's commitment, man, and I certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sam.